I'm Alex Michelson. This week, the issue is a date to reopen California.
We can confidently say by June 15th that we can start to open up as business as usual.
Governor Newsom sets June 15th as the benchmark, but what about new variants, the mask mandate, and more? Dee Dee Myers is the governor's point person on reopening. She's back with us this week. Plus, a special debate between Gloria Allred on the left and Elisha Krauss on the right. This will be fun. The Issue Is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Alex Michelson. California has set a benchmark for complete reopening of almost all businesses, assuming that vaccine supply remains high and hospitalizations remain low.
We are seeing bright light at the end of the tunnel. And on June 15th, all things being equal, we continue that good work. We'll have moved beyond that blueprint and we'll be opening up this economy.
Dee Dee Myers helped Governor Newsom make that decision. She is a senior advisor to the governor and director of California's Office of Business and Economic Redevelopment. She also served as the White House press secretary during the Clinton administration. Dee Dee Myers, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thank you so much, Alex. Great to be here.
All right. And this interview, I promise not to focus on your work as a consultant on the West Wing, as much as I would like to make the entire interview about that. So let's focus on the matter at hand, which is June 15th. Big deal, this announcement this week. June 15th, paint a picture of what that day looks like in California.
Well, we will go forward from here. More people will be vaccinated. We're at 20 million. We'll be somewhere closer to 40 million people with at least one shot in their arms. Infection rates, hospitalization rates will continue to be very low. We will see a lot of the restrictions on capacity and on how people do business lifted. And on June 15th, we'll go back to a more open economy with some ongoing safety restrictions, including continuing to wear masks.
Pretty much every business is going to be able to open, but that mask mandate is going to remain. I want to talk a little bit more about masks. Last week, Dr. Fauci was with us here on The Issue Is, and he talked about some preliminary data from the CDC that shows once you get vaccinated, you can't get badly sick and you can't spread the disease. Here's what he had to say.
So what you're likely going to see as more data accumulate is a recommendation or a statement that, in fact, if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. But we're not there yet.
So if all of that proves to be true, why do you need to wear a mask on June 15th?
Well, as Dr. Fauci said, we're not there yet. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that not everybody's eligible for a vaccination yet, right? We are on April 15th, the state will allow anyone 16 and over to make an appointment for a vaccination, and we encourage everybody to do that. But people under 16 will still not be eligible. So there'll be a significant portion of our state who are not vaccinated. The second reason is there are these variants. We don't know yet how they'll act, how they'll continue to spread, whether they'll continue to spread. They may or may not be able to evade the vaccine. And so until we have more data on that, continuing to wear masks and to be as safe as possible and to keep the vaccine, the virus from spreading to younger people is critical. And so masks will be required for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and there are critics who are worried about reopening, and many of them say that this is politically motivated, especially with a recall election looming. Here's what the editorial board at the San Francisco Chronicle said this week, quote, "There is no doubt that Governor Gavin Newsom's vow Tuesday to fully reopen California's economy was driven by data. The question is, how much of it was polling data?" How do you respond to that accusation?
These decisions were driven by data, and again, by that overarching desire to keep people safe. What's changed? Not the politics of the situation. What's changed is we have a vaccine or three vaccines that are incredibly efficacious, that are working really well, and that are getting into the arms of people every single day. More than 20 million people. That's more than almost any country on earth, except for 3 or 4 other countries. We've also seen a substantial and ongoing drop in all of the metrics that we've been tracking: number of cases, number of hospitalizations, number of people in ICUs, the positivity rate of the tests that are, we've been taking for months and months and months and months. And so those were the metrics. That was the data. Yes, it was data driven. And those were the metrics that formed the basis of this decision. If somehow we, again, start to see hospitalizations, especially among people who've been vaccinated, then we're going to slow things down. If that doesn't happen, and we don't expect that it will, we're going to move forward with that reopening on June 15th, again, keeping some of those safety measures in place, because we're not all the way through this yet, but we're going to get through it if Californians continue to do what they've done and get their vaccines. That is the most important thing. That's the game changer.
And let's talk a little bit more about vaccines, because there's been a lot of talk about this concept of vaccine passports. I'm curious, though, is the state working on some sort of universal proof of vaccine program that is reliable and trustworthy? For example, if I want to go and show somebody, do I literally have to carry that card with me, or will there be some sort of verifiable electronic way or something else to show somebody, yeah, I've been vaccinated?
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, you do have to have your vaccine card or a copy of it or a picture of it on your phone. We are looking at other options. The state will not stand up its own version of a vaccine passport. That's something that we're not preparing to do, but we're looking at how we might provide proof of vaccine, digital proof of vaccine to people who've been vaccinated, who can then choose to upload that on another kind of digital app or some other means. But in the meantime, people should have their vaccine cards available if they're going to an event or something where they'll need to show that. As you know, for example, you'll be able to go to a basketball game if you want indoors, but you will need to be either tested or vaccinated in order to do that.
All right, we've talked about a lot of the serious issues, but we also like to have some fun on this show to get to know our guests. And we play a 30-second game. It's called Personal Issues. This is where we put 30 seconds on the clock. We get to know you a little bit better. It's rapid fire, so try to answer quickly, okay? You ready to go? All right.
Do I get points if I answer more questions in the 30 seconds?
Bonus points, yeah. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, goodness gracious. Casablanca.
Okay, classic. Favorite band or musical artist?
Bruce Springsteen.
Good choice, my favorite. Favorite meal?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I like all sushi.
Good choice there. Favorite sports team?
The Los Angeles Dodgers, without a doubt, hands down.
And opening day this week. And what is your favorite TV show?
The West Wing.
Nicely done. We'd have a good time hanging out together.
But we agree on a few of those things, right?
I want to ask you this. June 15th, what are you most excited to do when things reopen?
I'm excited to go back to a baseball game with a full stadium.
Do you have any doubt the Dodgers are going to win the World Series again this year?
I'm very bullish. This is a fantastic team. It's a really exciting season ahead. So, and it's such a, last year baseball was a relief from all that was happening. This year it will be even better because we'll be able to go and enjoy it in person. So really excited.
We love that. All right. Well, sorry to the viewers in the other parts of the state, but go Dodgers. And Dee Dee Myers, thanks so much for watching or for being with us here on The Issue Is.
Thank you, Alex.
Up next, when Green Day was singing about Gloria, I'm sure they were singing about Gloria Allred. She's ready to debate conservative commentator Elisha Krauss about the recall, Matt Gaetz, so much more. Stay with us. More of The Issue Is after this.
Has the recall effort influenced your decisions in pandemic response?
Absolutely not. In fact, quite the contrary. We're just focused on the data, disease prevalence. I'm focused on what's actually happening on the ground.
That is Governor Newsom talking to CBS News reporter Carter Evans this week. Let's talk about the recall and more with our panel. Here they are, ready to go. Gloria Allred is back. It's been a minute since we had our most frequent guest on. She, of course, is one of the best-known progressive attorneys in the country. Elisha Krauss is also back. She's a conservative commentator who hosts the Washington Examiner's Newsmaker series and co-hosts the Lady Braincast podcast. This is your first time on together. Elisha, are you ready? Are you ready for Gloria?
I sure hope so.
Okay. Gloria,
College dropout versus lawyer. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Gloria, let's start with you. Does Governor Newsom deserve to be recalled? Why or why not?
No, absolutely not. I think he's done a great job. This is obviously a Republican effort to try to unseat a Democratic governor. And all the talk about the pandemic, what he's done, what he has not done, this recall effort was started before the pandemic was announced. It started in February 2020.
I don't care when the recall petition started. I care that it's working and that we're able to practice democracy in our great state. Newsom was doing a horrible job pre-COVID. The tech flight from and the job flight and corporation flight and even small business flight from the state was existing before this international pandemic. And the pandemic and his hypocrisy and horrible leadership just shined a light on how awful he is. I have my most left-leaning Bernie bro friends that are saying that they signed the petition. That is not Republican-led. There could be some Republicans and Republican dollars behind it, but I think that you're going to see that this is a bipartisan issue, much like it was with Davis back in the day, where people are like, you know what, enough is enough.
He's done his very best in a very volatile and a very dynamic situation. And, hopefully now by June 15th, if everything continues as it is expected to be, with vaccinations fully available, with people taking that shot in the arm, with COVID-related deaths down and hospitalizations down for COVID, we'll be able to meet that goal of reopening, and I think people will feel a lot better after June 15th.
I just have to circle back to what Gloria was saying there. I'm just against the government picking winners and losers. And throughout this entire pandemic, it was very clear that the party of science was not following the stats on this, was not following the science on this, and decided to follow politics and be hypocritical on this issue. And it is damaging immigrants and women, by the way, in our state, who are the two most common groups of people to own the small businesses, restaurants, and bars that have been shut down by Gavin Newsom.
Gloria, do you think the Republicans have been the party of science?
Anti-science. It's never been clearer than it was under President Trump that he was anti-science. I mean, more than 500,000 lives were lost that could have been saved had President Trump not lied to the American people about COVID, not engaged in magical thinking. Oh, it's going to be gone by Easter. It's going to be gone by another date. Don't worry about it. Not wearing his mask, not encouraging people to be socially distant. I'm so glad those times are in the past.
All right, before we get into a whole debate about Trump, which we could probably do, but let's try to look forward and talk about what's next in terms of this recall. We got reports that Caitlyn Jenner is looking at running for governor, which some people thought was a joke. But when you hear the reports, there are a lot of experienced political hands on the right that are meeting with her, apparently talking about a potential run. Elisha, what do you make of that candidacy? And if not her, who do you want to see as the Republican candidate?
I unfortunately am unaware. There's a lot of, I think, potential Republican candidates on our side of the aisle that would do a much better job than Newsom. I would like to see Caitlyn's party platform and what she would want to do at the top of the ticket here in the state to turn this state over. I think, we saw a Republican win after Davis. Schwarzenegger, unfortunately, was beholden to a lot of leftists, specifically environmentalists and teacher union agendas, and didn't do as much as he could have or should have done, in my opinion. I was honestly kind of hoping for Kanye for Gov, but I guess Caitlyn will do.
Are you serious? You really want to see Kanye as the governor of California?
I mean, he ran for president. He has name recognition in the state. It would have just been really fascinating to see him on the debate stage.
That would be.
He ran for president with a lot of Republican support, attempting to undermine and split the vote of the African American community. It didn't work, despite the Republican support and the Republican staff that supported Kanye.
Doesn't sound
I have never heard that argument for that's why Kanye West decided to run for president. And I would love to see you say that to his face, because I'm pretty sure that he would disagree.
I'm guessing that Gloria is not going to be voting for Kanye for governor.
I don't think so.
But what about Caitlyn?
Yeah, what do you think about Caitlyn?
Right now, I think the obituary is premature for Governor Newsom.
It is fascinating, though, that you have Nancy Pelosi encouraging high-level Democrats and donors in her state to not run because she wants to keep towing that line that Gloria said a few times, that this is solely a Republican issue.
Right now, polls
great
show.
Minds think alike then. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that Nancy agrees with me. Wonderful.
All right. Up next, our panel is back. We're going to talk about Matt Gaetz, Harvey Weinstein, and more. But first, for those of you who are relatively new to our show, Gloria Allred loves to dance. Unfortunately, we have to do so virtually these days, and you don't get to see those amazing moves. I mean, look at that. Nothing can stop Gloria. I'll never forget Gloria dancing her signature song, Gloria, in the Netflix documentary Seeing Allred, along with drag queens dressed as Gloria. All right, Gloria, show us how it's done.
The person doesn't exist. I have not had a relationship with a 17-year-old. That is totally false.
Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted.
That was Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz' memorable interview with Tucker Carlson on Fox News Channel. The congressman now facing a House ethics investigation for potential child sex trafficking charges. Back with our panel, conservative commentator Elisha Krauss, liberal attorney Gloria Allred. Elisha, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Matt Gaetz and what should happen next?
I mean, I'm very glad that the House is looking into this, and I'm hopeful that Republicans in the House are very vocal once we get all of the evidence. Based on what I have seen, I, personally think he's a scumbag. And if he is a scumbag, then his constituents should answer and send him out of office. And if he did anything illegal, then he should totally be booted out of office prior to the ability of his constituents to vote. And I think the Republican Party should be very consistent on this, that we do not want this kind of behavior. And I think that unfortunately the messaging has kind of been all over the place here. And I just across the board am disgusted by this.
Gloria, my guess is you agree with Elisha.
In part, but this is not about whether Matt Gaetz is a scumbag. This is about whether or not he is engaged in criminal conduct, whether he has engaged in sex trafficking of underage girls. Doesn't that sound familiar? I represent 20 victims of Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, he's coming out with a bunch of nonsense about how this is about dating and he can date whomever he wants. This is not about dating. This is about something far more serious. And he's now using it to fundraise, to raise money for himself.
Meanwhile, Gloria, Harvey Weinstein has filed an appeal in New York and is facing charges here in California as well. You are at the center of that case, as you're at the center of so many cases. Can you give us a real quick update on where things are at with Harvey Weinstein?
Yes, Mr. Weinstein was convicted of criminal sexual assault of my client, Mimi Haley, who was very brave to testify in the criminal case against Mr. Weinstein in New York. He was also convicted of another charge against another victim. On Monday now, there's going to be an extradition hearing coming up, Alex, in New York, where LA is trying to get him extradited from New York back to LA because the LA district attorney is prosecuting him here on charges involving 5 alleged victims of Mr. Weinstein. I represent 2 for whom charges have been filed. And so the case will continue. I don't know whether Mr. Weinstein's going to have the same defense team in LA as he had in New York, but they failed miserably in New York, and I'm going to wish them the same result here in LA.
All right, up next, we wrap things up with Gloria and Elisha. But before we do, some new music this week from Prince. Yes, that Prince.
Welcome to America.
This is a song called Welcome to America that Prince recorded in 2010, but it is just being released now. A full album is coming this summer. It's got a nice beat. I think you're going to like it, Gloria. We want to let people know that they can log on to our website, theissueisshow.com, for more information, including podcasts with the guests you see right there. We'll be right back.
Welcome to America.
Women are now empowered, and they will never be silent again. This is where the revolution begins.
That was Gloria Allred talking about women's rights in her Netflix documentary, Seeing Allred. We're back with Gloria and conservative commentator Elisha Krauss. Both of you are really advocates for women's rights and have dedicated your lives to that issue. Both of you define that a little bit differently, I think. But I know that it can be tough for being a strong woman in the public eye, and I'm wondering if each of you can offer a piece of advice to young women who might be interested in politics or law. Elisha, let's start with you.
I would say that it is very important to put family first. Find yourself a good man that is your best friend and your lover, and get married and have lots of babies, because a career will always be there. And you want a good man beside you and lots of kids around to bring you joy when you come home from a super tough job or read the comments on Twitter that call you the C word and other things.
Gloria.
My advice is to follow the advice of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said that a woman's place is at every table where a decision is being made. And so that's what she should do. And I want women to run for elected positions, and they can get support from the National Women's Political Caucus and learn how to raise funds and then win for political office.
And finally, as we wrap up, we now have this new date in California, June 15th, our sort of new Independence Day. Elisha, what are you most excited about doing on June 15th?
Planning an international trip for my husband's 40th and taking the girls to Disneyland.
Excellent. Gloria, what are you most excited about?
2 points. One, coming back into the studio and dancing with Alex in person. And two, celebrating my 80th birthday on July 3rd at the Hollywood Bowl. I hope it's open by then.
Wow. All right, Gloria, can I know you got your mug. Can I give you a cheers virtually?
Thank
Cheers
you
to
so
that.
much.
Alicia's got to dig hers out with the cobwebs somewhere. But cheers to you,
You know what?
Gloria.
I had it, but since I didn't get brownies from your mom, I decided not to show my mug today.
Okay. So, Gloria, I still want to dance, though. So let's end with more music. Gloria, you ready to go crazy?
You got it.
All right, since Prince's new music is coming, we're also celebrating some of his old music. So here we go. We end with a little Prince, and let's go crazy. I'm Alex Michelson. Thanks for watching The Issue Is. Take us home, guys.